Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 133 of the Debt Free Dad podcast. Today, I have an amazing guest joining us. So excited. Kellie Tyson. And Kellie joined me in Roots in January of 2022. So at the time of this recording, that's about 6 months ago. And since she's joined in just the last 6 months, check this out. She has saved and paid off $15,299.53. Now, today, Kellie is joining me to share her journey and just how she's been able to make such amazing progress in just such a short period of time. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Debt Free Dad podcast, where we're helping normal, everyday people learn how to save money and kick debt so they can live a happier and stress-free life. Now here's your host, Debt Free Dad, Brad Nelson.
Hey, how is everyone doing today? You can find me on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Just search Brad Nelson, Debt Free Dad. And as always, welcome to today's show. So glad that you guys are joining us. And remember to get all the resources, show notes, and links from today's show. You can head over to balancedcents.com/133. Again, that's BALANCEDCENTS.com/133. And as I mentioned, so excited to welcome Kellie to the show. And Kellie was born in Texas, and she met her husband, Wes, when they were just 11 years old. Now, I love this story, guys. Listen to this. This is so awesome. They started dating in their early teens, but then life got in the way, and they went their separate ways. But check this out. They reconnected on social media and married in 2014 in Idaho. Now, Wes thought he was going to bring Kellie back to Texas, but they fell in love with the mountains, and they decided to stay in the area. Now, currently, they live in the Oregon-Idaho border area, closer to civilization, with their border collie Ringo and their border kitty Groucho. Hopefully I got that name right. I think it's Groucho, right? And 2 Pandemic Project chickens, which is so fun. Now, Kellie earned her degree in accounting and currently works as an office manager and bookkeeper for a general contractor and real estate developer. Now, besides her chickens, Kellie says that she enjoys experimental gardening, walking Ringo in the park, and being together with her husband, Wes. They enjoy camping and the great outdoors. How fun is that? Very much in common with me, Kellie. Camping, it's my jam. I love it. But Kellie, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, you have 6 months. And this is what I love about your journey, because, we'll have people that will see the results a lot of our Roots members have gotten, and they'll say, that's impossible. I just don't know if I can do it. And I was so happy that you accepted the invitation to come on this show, because it's sometimes harder for us to get people that are newer, that are just getting started, because they don't feel like they've made good enough progress, or that their journey is inspiring enough, or whatever it might be. And I'm just glad, because I think in just a 6-month period, what you've been able to accomplish and how you're going to be able to kind of share what you've been able to do, I think it's just going to inspire so many people. So it meant everything to me. And I just want to thank you right up front. It meant everything to me that you're like, yes, I'll come on and do this. Because I think there's going to be some people out there listening to this that you're going to inspire, and you're going to be able to show them that, look, like in 6 months, I can't promise you get the same exact results, but I guarantee you can make progress. And I love that you're on here to share this. So to kind of kick off our conversation, Kellie, can you share a little bit, how money, was a thing for you maybe as you grew up? How did you learn about money? How did you handle money as a young adult? And, what were some of either the successes or maybe even some of the common struggles that you were having with finances, that caused you to eventually get to the point of, seeking out like a program like Roots and saying, I got to try something different?
Well, there really wasn't any kind of financial training in my early years. That my grandparents, they opened up a savings account when we were little, and and money was there. We get this little, I don't know if you remember, back they used to have these little penny books where you put the coins in, and after it fills up, then you take it to the bank and put it in your account. And that was really the only thing I knew about my savings account, is that where all those little pennies went. And but my dad was more of a, okay, well, let's put everything in a money market account. It's like, okay, so what else? Never heard anything about budgets. And he was a doctor, and so he had his secretary take care of all of his personal bills and stuff. Never saw a budget, nothing. So it just happened. And then I got out in the real world.
Yeah. And how did that go?
It was it was okay at first. I've always been one of those that's been real scared about credit cards.
Okay.
And like my mother gave me I don't know what they call them, where the kid gets the credit card, but it's really in the parent's name until they get the credit. And so every time I spent something on my credit card, it was like I paid it off immediately because, and I hardly ever spent anything on it.
Yeah.
But then, after I got married, it didn't work that way, And then you got the spouse, so, hey, let's go spend spend this. Oh, we'll pay it back. Don't worry about it. And, before you know it, you can't pay it. You can't pay the bill. And my first husband, he would send ugly letters to the credit card companies, and then it's like, and then he'd call them back a few minutes later. Oh, we lost that credit card. That's all fraud or whatever. What? And long story short, he ain't my husband anymore.
Yeah, right. I noticed you said first husband.
Yeah. But, and it was kind of, this is kind of the really, he, after we divorced, he was real sticky and tried to, he got one of my credit cards, and then he decided he didn't want to pay that credit card. And so he filed for bankruptcy, and, everyone started calling me, oh, you need to pay this bill because you used to be kin to. I'm like, I don't think so. So, but it was really kind of around that time that that I had a credit card that had over $20,000 on it.
Yeah.
Believe it or not,
Right.
I don't know how it happened. It just happened, and then.
So can you talk about that real quick? Because I want to hit on that, because you just said,
oh yeah,
you had $20,000 on a credit card, and you don't know how it happened. It just happened, and I hear that. So I experienced that same thing in my own life when I looked at those credit card balances before I got out of debt, and I look at that statement that was in the mail, and I look at the total, and it's like, what is this? Like, what is this? What is, you remember like the recent things, of course, but
right.
When you're talking years of death by 1,000 cuts, or, a little going out to eat here, or a little bill there, or a little vacation souvenir here, or whatever it might be. And before you know it, you're just making those monthly payments, and all of a sudden it's like, this is like the mountain, right?
Yes.
So do you have any idea of what that $20,000 in credit card debt would represent for you? Was the same situation, just little things here and there, or was it like a big thing, do you think?
Yes, and there were a couple of big things. That I think we bought a lawnmower on the credit card, and then I was invited to go to the National Jamboree with the Boy Scouts as a I worked as a volunteer. You pay to be a volunteer kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
So I put my airline tickets and all of my travel expenses on that, which it added up a lot more than I thought. And and then the little incidentals that, oh, since we're here, this is a once in a lifetime thing. Put it on the card, and but yeah, and then all the little things just added up very quickly.
Right. So take us back 6 months ago, like before you joined Roots, before you decided like, hey, I want to give this a shot. Like, what was life like before then? Like leading up to that moment and that decision that you made, what were some things that you were struggling with, or things that, were stressing you out when you were starting to think about your finances, and things that, goals maybe that you wanted to reach that you weren't really quite sure how to do it?
Well, I had 2 credit cards that I was slowly paying off, and they had both, I got behind on those. The pandemic changed everything for us, of course. Um, and so I set up payment plans where I was paying, each of them like a little bit every other week, and had slowly got them where they were paid off. Which was about the time that I decided I get these planners every year that, I like to keep track of things, and yours was the absolute best planner I've ever found. And like everything, the binder didn't break, and it's not gigantic where I can't carry it around with me everywhere. I mean, I can put all of my appointments and just everything in it, and keep track of my expenses, and I can look ahead and say, oh yeah, I need to pay that bill next week, and so that's where it started. But when I got the planner, I looked at one of the first few pages is ask you what your visions, what are your visions?
Yeah,
and
right.
I kind of sat there, I'm like, so what is my vision other than getting out of my debt, getting everything straightened up? And, this year, both my husband and I turned 60. He turned 60 last week. And I like, maybe my vision should be getting set up so that we can enjoy our golden years. And, and I started looking at a lot of this stuff. I'm like, okay, I have a life insurance policy, but I don't know anything about it. He doesn't have life insurance. We have no savings. So but again, I had no idea about my vision and any of that. So that's when I said, I need to join Roots.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And for those of you who are listening to this, Kelly mentioned, the vision board that we have inside our totally awesome debt freedom planner. You guys heard the ad on this podcast countless times. But so the first couple of pages, we have like what we call as a vision board. The reason I have that in there is because my wife and talking to a lot of other people, we have found it like extremely helpful and very motivational to make your goals visual. Right. So rather than just kind of writing them down, like I want to build an emergency fund, or I want to buy a house, or I want to have this, or whatever it might be, or want to save this amount of money, or I want to make this purchase. Like instead of just writing it, we would actually take photographs and pictures, and we would spend time, and we actually still do this. And, we would take pictures and put them on the vision board to help make our goal just that much more visual. So you buy into it a lot more. So you're willing to kind of stay focused on it, right? For me, handwriting just wasn't enough. I wanted to take an extra step. So we kind of include that in the planner. But anyways, back to you joining Roots. So you guys decided to join, and was your husband, Wes, was he on board with it? What were his thoughts behind it? Or did you just kind of do this, or what was that like?
He just was like, I don't want to hear this. Just you do it. You take care of it. You're in control of the finances at this point, because it was so overwhelming. We had we still do a lot of medical debt. And he finally got his disability within the last 2 years, I believe. So you take care of it.
Yeah.
And, but it's funny that since he's seen me setting goals, and one of the funny things is that I was terrified of getting our mail, and I would just let the mail sit in the mailbox for a week until you just can't get any more mail. And so I need to go get my mail, and then I just kind of like, I'm not gonna open these envelopes. So one of the very first things I did when I started Root is I spent, you have, one of your assignments is to look over your bank statements for the last 3 to 6 months. Well, I also took it a step further and opened up all of my bills, and just to see what I had.
Yeah.
It was, it wasn't as frightening as I thought it was. And just opening the mail, like, oh, okay, well, it's not that bad. This is a duplicate of this. And okay, well, I can see where things are going. And in fact, just the other day, I sat down again, doing my my monthly snowball.
Yeah.
And trying to update. And some of the things that I have, some of the medical bills we had in collections, and it's kind of weird because, you have the hospital and then there's this dead time that you're waiting for the insurance to pay some stuff, and you don't see anything. And then all of a sudden they're sending you to collections. You're like, wait a minute, we haven't received the final bill yet. and then before you know it, they've sent it to someone else. So I found at least 2 different collections bills that were the same thing. And they're like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not as bad as I thought it was. It's still, I have about $18,000 in collections, and most of that, all of it's medical bills.
Yeah.
My husband's medical expenses, and,
right.
That we're slowly working on it. And we are, I decided that we would go from the fresh, the ones that are not in collections yet, or going from, keeping those current, and then going from there, and then doing the snowball on the oldest ones, and it's empowering.
Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, I love that, and I love that you took the steps to go through and look through those expenses, and it's like Kelly said. Yeah, we do hear that. We do hear that a lot of people feel like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. It's still not great, but it's not nearly as bad as I thought. And there is this somewhat sense of, okay, I know where I'm at now, right? And now you joined Roots, which was going to give you all the tools of, okay, now that you know where you're at, here's how we're going to put together a plan to attack this. So share with me, when you joined in January, like, what were some of the first things that you went through besides looking at your past expenses and things? But what were some things? Because there's people listening to this and saying, man, Kelly, if you saved and paid off $15,000 in 6 months, what were some of the things that you did so I can do them? So can you share real quick with the listeners who are listening to this, what were some things that you felt made the biggest difference for you in being able to get the results that you've gotten over the last 6 months, especially early on in those first few months, do you think?
Mm-hmm. Well, there were several, but the absolute biggest, and you probably, a lot of people have probably heard me, on the on our Facebook page. I totally believe in the Roots 15. Checking your balances daily, checking your budget, where, your expenses. And for me, I get paid weekly. And so I have my mortgage that is just a little bit more than my weekly paycheck. So I have to make sure that I have a little bit left over from my last week's paycheck to cover that, and make sure that, my other expenses that are due, make sure I have something to eat and so on. But so Roots is probably the biggest factor. And then let's see, just my behavior changes.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I went back and, I can go in the Roots group. Obviously, before everyone I have it on my podcast, I go through and I go back and I look at their journey. And when you started, I remember you made a couple of posts about talking about behavior changes and mindset changes. Can you dive into a little bit of, like, what were some behavior or habit changes that you made that made the biggest difference, and even financial mindset? Like, how do you think about your finances differently than, say, when you started 6 months ago, you think?
Well, people don't realize how much they're spending. If you go into the fast food place every day for lunch, you don't realize how much you're spending. And when, multiply that, for a work week, 5 times a week. And then if you got a snack or whatever, maybe breakfast in the morning because you were too busy in the morning to make something, it adds up. And then when you've got a husband sitting at home that doesn't want to wait for you to make dinner, come on, I'm hungry, honey. Let's go eat.
Oh, so they're convincing you to go out to eat, right? Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
So that is what a big factor in. And I tend to stress eat and go for the junk food. The truck stop is just about a block away from my office, and I'll run down there and get me a soda, and and some of those Hostess cupcakes. And I'm like, well, since I'm here, I might as well get me something salty. So I'll grab a bag of chips. And before I know it, I got another $10 on my junk food, which I don't need, either financially or, physically. But so one of the things that I had to make myself get back in the habit of making my lunches and, at least having snacks in my pantry up here at work. And, I don't always, but I've gotten pretty good at it. Like, I'll have a big can of nuts or, get some of those Hostess cupcake things in the pantry or candy. But, so not all good, healthy, but.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about when it comes to your habits, like, has your mindset changed in the ways that you, and this is outside of like, because for a lot of people, eating out is a challenge for a lot of people. We hear it constantly. It's one of the number one areas when it comes to discretionary income where people overspend the most. But when it comes to mindset and spending money on other things, impulsive and wasteful spending habits are one of the things that we see a lot of people struggling with. I think outside of bigger ticket items like, car payments and student loans and things like that, impulsive and wasteful spending habits really add on to what, spending a lot of cash that you have if you have any discretionary income, or it's putting people further into debt and racking up the credit card debt. But how has your mindset changed towards some of those purchases? Have you caught yourself thinking about things differently now because you're consciously making an effort? You talked about the Roots 15, you're tracking your stuff every day like we teach you to. How has that played a role in your mindset of just the daily life that you now live and how you think about using and spending the resources that you're with your money?
Well, especially on my grocery, when I go grocery shopping, I make a list, and if I don't have it on the list, but I need it, I need, something I forgot. Oh yeah, I need to get this. I will write it on my list so that I can visualize, okay, hey, this is on my list. But if it's otherwise, if it's not on the list, I don't get it.
Yeah.
And then, I've always been a little bit, price, what is it?
Price conscious,
frugal minded on, budget conscious. And I'll buy the store brand over the name brand, and because basically they're made at the same place,
right?
A lot of times, and there's very few items that I can tell a difference. The store brand versus the name brand. And probably last year, the place that we had to go to for our prescriptions, it was also a little dry goods store. It has everything. But last year they decided to no longer have a pharmacy, which is kind of a blessing for me because all of my incidental shopping that I would do as I was waiting at the prescriptions, like, okay, I need to get some cat food, dog food, let's go get some chicken feed, and, let's go get some new pair of shorts or whatever. Added up to the prescription bill.
Right. Because the stuff obviously at that store is probably a little bit more expensive than, say, other options that are out there.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of the stuff I didn't really need anyway. That, dog already had 3 different kinds of snacks and whatever. And
so can you share a little bit about your emergency fund? When we, that's one of the first things that we talk about. You mentioned, before you started Roots, one of the reasons why you guys wanted to start was you didn't have any savings. And, one of the things that we talk about is the importance of building the emergency fund to really lean on that to keep you out of debt. And that way you don't go further into debt if emergency comes up. Now you did build yours, and how has that changed kind of your plan? How has that helped you?
It is incredible. I got it up to a little over $1,100, and then in late April or May, my husband had an emergency, and the hospital called me. Oh, we got your husband in the hospital. He's okay, but we wanted you to know. And about that same time, my dog got sick, and my stress levels went through the roof. Yes, I was junk food eating, and
Yeah.
he, luckily he was over there overnight. It was observation, but the fact that I had my emergency fund, it was incredible because I took a whole day. I was without pay. I don't get paid at my job for
Yeah.
time off, and so that was a tremendous relief knowing that I had it. And yes, I did dip into it, and I'm actually rebuilding it now at a little over $600, and I've got some cash that I hold on to. That one of the things that I hold on to my cash, because for me it's I've never liked to hold cash on me,
Yeah.
have pocket money.
Right.
So that's something that it's another behavior change.
That's interesting. So
And
what is the cash? How does the cash make you feel now that you just hold on to it? What is that? Is it like a security thing? Makes you feel good that you have a little extra just in case?
it is,
Yeah.
and usually when I have cash, it's just the bare minimum, and I usually ended up using it for laundry or
Yeah.
something, snacks or whatever. But now I hold on to the. In fact, I told my husband when my husband won the lottery he won. He had four numbers out of the Powerball. That was his birthday present last week, and he won $300, and he gave me $50 of that. He, and he was wanting something. He was wanting to get him a shotgun, and that was something that I put on our sinking fund list, which we're still kind of working on. Is to me, it's a wish list that when I start thinking, okay, we need this, 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 and this, I start getting overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, we'll put that on the side
Yeah.
for now. But yeah, holding that money is actually, it's like, oh, I can control. I don't have to spend that.
Yeah.
I can hold
Right.
on to it.
Yeah. Love
So I
that.
try to hold on to it for a week, and then when I don't use it, which is most of the time, then I put it in my savings the next
Yeah.
week.
Love that. So you saved and paid off $15,299. So my first question is, would you have ever believed that you would have been able to do that in just 6 months?
Absolutely no.
It's incredible, isn't it?
And it's funny when do the little snowball, you start looking at your bills like, oh, well, that payment's not very much, $32. I can pay that whole bill off. Let's pay that one off. And it's so empowering.
Yeah.
That's one less bill I have. Yay.
Yeah. That's awesome. So of that $15,299, I know some of that is savings, but like for the people listening to this, like what kind of debts were you able to pay off using the debt snowball approach that we often talk about here? Like what were some? Were they credit cards, medical bills? Like was it a mix of some? Were there some that what were we talking about?
Well, of course, part of that's my mortgage, and part of that is my car payment.
Yep.
When I got my car, it was the first car I've ever picked out. I went into the car dealer and bought it myself. No one was with me, but I didn't exactly have the finesse about it. But I ended up with the 11% loan, which they're like, yikes, but
Yeah.
But it's getting there, and then looking at the balances, I'm really starting to see a difference. I'm paying a little bit more
Yeah.
than the minimum, and each month it helps. When my husband was in the hospital in May, I had about $40 taken off of my minimum payment because I was paying more than
Right.
I needed to. So it helped that month.
Yeah. That's
And
awesome.
so that month I only paid the minimum.
Yeah.
And then the other debts I have is our medical, and he has all these medical bills, the hospital, doctor, and then of course all the medical bills and collections. We don't have any credit cards anymore, thank goodness.
Awesome. Well, that's a great start. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So,
oh yeah, I do have my federal tax bill, which I'm slowly chipping away at, but it's making progress too. I paid off my state tax debt in February or March, and so now I'm totally paying down the federal one. I should have it paid off by the end of the year.
Yeah, that's great. And I think the key word that you have said several times now as you're kind of talking is progress. You're seeing progress, right? And I think for a lot of us, including myself at one time, it's always that feeling of you take one step backwards and sometimes you get knocked back 3 steps, right? It's just seems like no matter what you do, you're just not really making any progress. But you're not seeing that. You're seeing regular progress over the last 6 months, and it's huge. This makes you feel just so different. And you mentioned, the mailbox used to scare you. So I'm interested now, just 6 months later, like, talk about your stress levels and your daily life. Like, do you feel better? How much of a difference has this made for you, just living your normal life?
Yeah, it's incredible. In fact, one day my husband made the comment that, why are you so anxious to see the mailbox? To go to the mailbox? Are you expecting something in the mail? I'm like, well, no, but I'm not afraid to look in the mail anymore. And then last night we were watching something on TV, and the commercials. There was it was like a Dave commercial or something. I said, that's a personal loan. Look at that. That's a personal loan thing, and then the very next one, we're both looking at it. And before I could say anything, he says, that's another personal loan.
That marketing they use is tricky, right? Makes it look like it's all warm and fuzzy.
We made it a game. They're like, oh, look at that. And he, but since I have gotten a little bit more confident in our finances, and he is actually like, hey, you know what? I want to be a little bit more, I want to take more of a role too. And so we, sit down together and, go over the budget and, honey, we can't go out to eat this week because we went out twice last week. And, like I said, he likes to eat it. We have 2 restaurants in our little town of 3,200 people, a real good steakhouse and a Mexican food place.
Yeah.
And the Mexican food place opened up just after the pandemic. Well, they started letting people go back inside the restaurants again, and so it's our duty to go in and we think we're keeping them in business.
So do you feel like when it comes to your relationship and just the whole conversation about finances, has that improved just, talking about it and being maybe more on the same page as far as where you're at? And obviously him being willing to participate. I mean, you said from the get-go, he was kind of like, you handle it. And now he's saying, hey, I want to maybe help out a little bit. I mean, how cool is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, he, and in fact, when he gets the little phone calls, from the debt collectors, he's like, send it to my wife. She'll take care of it. but still, he last week he had one. He says, someone was calling about a $20. I'm like, you know what? I said, that's probably that bill collector. He says, I knew it. But we're both on board, and it just makes things so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I love that you're seeing progress in that area because it does take a lot of stress off, because there are a lot of couples that are out there where it's one person typically is that responsible, or at least primarily responsible for it, and they have to carry all the stress. And it's not to say that both of you have to be, all in and doing it all together. It's just that it's just nice to have the other partner at least being willing to sit down and say, hey, like, this is what's going on, and just being able to, like, this is what's going on my shoulders right now. I just need you to know what's going on, right? Not necessarily to fix anything, but just that they're there to listen and they're there to talk through it, maybe offer options or suggestions. It just makes life a little bit easier when the partners are on that same page, no question. So, share real quick. I got 2 last questions for you. The last one I want to, or one of the last ones I want to ask you is just in regards to sharing this with other people. Have you noticed anyone, friends, family? Have you talked about like things that you're doing differently with your finances? Any experience there with any pushback or celebrations from other people?
Well, no, right now, because our family lives all over the place and no one lives really close to us at this point. But um, I have talked to some other people that are, in one of my other groups, and they're like, "Oh, well, I don't care about that. I don't want to listen to that." I'm like, okay, whatever. Give me time.
Yeah. It's funny, and that's why I asked the question, because it's so interesting, the difference in reactions that you'll get. Like when I was getting out of debt, I mean, most people were just like, would always look at me like weird. My brother, who's a co-host on this show, I mean, we talk about that all the time. Like he thought I was crazy for wanting to do this. But anyone that I would kind of talk to about it, they would just have this weird reaction. And so I always like to ask, sometimes people get celebrations. Sometimes like you just said, why are you doing that? No, who cares about that? I don't want to do anything with that. Right. Money is such a taboo thing. So that's interesting. So last question I have for you, Kellie, is what would you say to someone, who is in a similar situation like you? You mentioned you guys are, looking to retire and, you're in your 60s now, you're looking to plan for the future. And, 6 months ago, you didn't have a savings and you wanted to be able to pay down debt and things like that. And now here you are just 6 months later, you feel so different. Your stress levels are down. What would you say to someone who is in your same shoes, say 6 months ago, and is a little on the fence about, should I do this? Is this really a journey I want to go on? What would you say to them?
Well, I was thinking this morning that, when you're overweight and you need to go on a diet, you usually look for a diet plan or a dietitian or someone to help you with your, the exercise.
Yeah, exercise,
whatever.
meal plans.
And,
yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then also it's like if you're injured and you can't use your limb very properly, you remember how to throw, but you can't use that arm. You go to a physical therapist or whatever to learn how to use those muscles again. So basically, roots for me is like it's a physical therapy, so to speak, to relearn what you knew or you thought you knew, but it's incredible.
Yeah, I love that. So, quick question: is life better now than it was 6 months ago, at least financially speaking?
It's yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So much better, and and one of the things that I was fearful about is like, 6 months ago, like, there's no way I can retire. All my debt, there's just no way. And now, and one of the exercises in our modules is, working out what do you really need for a month, when you're doing your emergency funds. And I figured out that, once most of my debt is paid down, even with still paying my mortgage, I can live off of, minimal income.
Yeah.
Once that time. So that's even more goal, to get everything paid off in the next 2 years. Is maybe it'll probably, I think I can do it in 2 years.
Yeah.
So
how awesome! What a great way to be able to wake up and have some hope, though, that you do have a plan, and you're working and you're making consistent progress every day towards it. It's just so awesome. So, Kellie, I just want to thank you for coming on and sharing. And you're just proof again, a normal everyday person, hardworking individual, just wanted something different, wanted to clean up their finances, wanted less financial stress. And here you are, you're taking the actions that we talk about on the show, that we teach inside Roots. And again, proof that you can make progress and you can change your financial life. That's so awesome. So huge congratulations to you. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
Hey, if you love planners, this is for you. But you know why planners frustrate me? Because they only really get it half right. Now, sure, They're really good and fancy about helping you manage your time, which is really important, obviously. That's what a planner's for. But where they get it wrong is money, the second most valuable resource in our lives. Most planners don't include any financial planning, things like, keeping track of paydays, bills, due dates, spending, yearly expenses, budgets, cash flow planning, debt elimination plans, and goal planning, right? None of that stuff. That's a real pain. And then what? Then you got to create your own in some silly binder, right? And who has time for all of that stuff? So instead, what happens? Nothing, right? A lot of people tend to ignore their finances even more, and things only get worse. Well, that all ends today because I am so excited to announce and release my brand new, totally awesome Debt Freedom Planner. This thing's awesome, by the way. Now, before you say, Brad, I've already got a planner. This is not an ordinary day planner. This is the Debt Freedom Planner, which is a companion tool that works with your day planner, and it's built to help you manage your money, pay off more debt, and melt away financial stress. And I believe this is the tool that a lot of people who want to take control of their finances have been waiting for. So head on over to therealdebtfreedad.com, click on the Debt Freedom Planner in the menu to get access to your planner today.
Hey, what's this I see? I thought this was a party! Let's dance!
All right. That sound means it's time for the celebrations of the show. And of course, a big, huge shout out once again to Kellie Tyson for joining us and just sharing once again how normal people just who are willing to change their mindset, try some different things, willing to get the education, willing to get the support and accountability that we talk about a lot on this podcast. Again, proof that you can make progress even during times when inflation is as high as it is and things are as tough as they are for a lot of people out there. Again, Kellie is proof that you still can make progress, and what an amazing story. So huge congratulations to her. I'm going to kick it off with Victoria, and Victoria just paid $800 on my credit card and paid for a vacation in February in cash. Absolutely outstanding, Victoria. Congratulations to you. Mary Southern, $923 towards debt this past week, $190 towards my sinking funds and savings, and huge celebration and milestone for her, finally under $30,000 in credit card debt. She says, I am in the 20s. Mary, you've been working so hard over the last 2.5 years. So proud of you. Such awesome progress. Congratulations. Shannon Thompson canceled and downgraded a few of my subscriptions and services. Check this out, guys. She says this is going to save her $1,700 a year. Shannon, what a win. Now you can use those funds to better support your financial goals. Awesome job, Shannon. Bobby Johnston, I was able to lower my cell phone bill by $70 a month. I'm hoping to find something a little less. That is awesome, Bobby. Huge congratulations to you. And Jess Frazier, such an amazing win. So excited to announce this and just celebrate with her. She says so much to celebrate this week, but by far the biggest is that we just closed on our new home yesterday. And if you've been following this podcast, Jess was on our podcast a while back ago. Single mom has just made some huge, amazing wins and had some amazing progress here, saving and paying off well over $100,000 now in the last 2 or so years. Now has purchased their first home. Just an awesome win. I'm so happy for Jess. Congratulations to you. Brenda Philhauer, I've paid off another $3,000 in credit card debt. Amazing, Brenda. She says, I'm also going through the house and collecting things, and I'm about to have a yard sale coming up here in the month of September. Brenda, huge congratulations to you. Way to look for ways to increase that income and bring some more money in to help you reach your financial goals. Love those wins. And huge congratulations to all of you who are working your way out of debt and getting those wins every single week. It's so awesome. And if you're just getting started with our podcast, or maybe you've been listening for some time and you're interested in how you can get started on the road to financial freedom, the best way, the fast track way to do this, visit my website. Go to balancesense.com or therealdebtfreedad.com and sign up for my free Life Without Payments workshop, where I'm going to actually show you the first steps that have helped tens of thousands of people just like you and I kick financial stress and worry for good. And thanks for hanging out with us here today. We love your feedback, and it also helps us grow our podcast, so please leave us an honest review. Hey, we read every single one of those, and as you guys know, the Debt Free Dad podcast is here to help you live a happier and stress-free financial life. So if you know someone who could benefit from our show, we would really appreciate a share. We appreciate you, And we will see you guys on an upcoming episode. Stay tuned.
Hey, thanks for hanging out with us here today. We love your feedback, and it also helps us grow our YouTube show. So please give us a like or leave us some honest feedback on this video. And if you want the latest from the show, obviously be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe to our channel. And for the latest resources, or if you want more information on how to kick debt and financial stress, please be sure to check out the links in this video or head over to therealdebtfreedad.com. We'll see you guys on an upcoming show. Take care.